Hi everyone, welcome to the Rangers Review pre-match briefing. Myself and Stevie Clifford here today to look ahead to Rangers versus Dundee. Stevie's laughing about the light.
It looks like there's a third light,
shining
just going right across my dome.
Which there's not, we can confirm. But we're going to talk through the teams. The Rangers team has just dropped. We'll get that up. We'll get Stevie's thoughts on some of the big selection issues. Fair to say, not many options for Philippe Clement to choose from. We should go straight to David's comment, who's kindly donated £10, and he says he feels very sorry for the manager. I think yesterday Stevie was the most frustrated I've seen Philippe Clement after he was frustrated in midweek as well. So we'll come on to that, David, but I want to flag that up right away for the kind donation. Let's get straight into the team. If you have not seen it, Jack Butland in goals, a back four of James Tavernier, John Suter, Leon Balogun and Borna Barisic, Jose Cifuentes and John Lundstrom are in the midfield. Matondo, Campbell and Sima behind the central striker of Cyril Dessers. I think that it will probably be Matondo on the right, although we'll come on to discuss that. That is the Rangers 11 that starts today. Stevie, not too many surprises. I think most people thought that Dessers would come in up top as he did last week. Obviously, Danilo has been ruled out for some time through injury, unfortunately. Abdallah Sima will presumably continue on the left, where he scored 3 goals in the last 2 games from. Aside from that, no major surprises, and probably not surprising as well to see Ross McCausland rotated out because he's just started 2 games the past week as well. What's your kind of thoughts on the lineup overall?
My thoughts on it is that it's okay. I don't really... Goldson not being in there is always a surprise, I think, because you just expect him to be in there, but understand completely the rationale behind wanting to give him a wee bit of the rest. We do have, Betis and then a cup final to think about, so I understand that. Cifuentes coming in, I thought he did okay during the week, Joshua. But
I thought it was maybe he's not hit the height so far, but I thought coming within the game he came into, his defensive numbers, I thought was one of his better shows.
He was very good on the ball. I just don't think he's quite up to speed yet, and that's what I think. On the eye, he's very slow.
But that was a fast game to come into, wasn't it? So that's maybe a promising sign that he was.
Yeah, just like him to be a wee bit more quicker. So maybe that will come as he settles. Matondo coming in from McCausland, I think again is fine, and I always thought it was going to be Dessers up top. So I like the fact that Cantwell starting there as well. The thing about Danilo is that even though he's not found the back of the net, and I think it has been some glaring opportunities missed, his pressing and his all-round game triggers a lot for our team, and I haven't seen that from Cyril Dessers. He's not as fast. So that's a bit of a concern about how we're going to kind of manage that. But I suppose the speed from the wings, and Cantwell can shift a wee bit as well. It's up to them to get as close to Cyril as they can, because he can hold it up. He's strong. He can bring people into play. That's how I'd be looking to use him. If you use him as an out-and-out 9, and we've spoken about this before, like an attacking forward who closes down and things and chases, I don't think he's suited. But if you bring him in as more of a target man playing off, I think he might do better today. The big man needs to take an opportunity like today and score some goals.
We've said that a few times, though, haven't we?
We have. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and we'd be foolish to sit here and say that, he's set the heather alight and he's come in and banged in the goals and he looks brilliant. He doesn't, right? I don't think that's unfair to say, but it's an opportunity for him that he needs to go and take. So, side of the team, Golson's the only real surprise. I don't mind the changes. Barisic is always going to come in at left back. I don't think Ridvan really took his opportunity during the week. I don't think Ridvan has really taken his opportunity. I've said before on this show with Derek that I think he'll go in January. I think that's the same. When he's not keeping his place for a game like today, I think that you'll see that happen in January. But, aside of that, Joshua, I think that team's fine. It's a game at home against a team that we beat 5-0 away. Everybody should be getting behind and thinking, hopefully, that we're going to make a good job of it today.
The bench reads, if you've not seen it, McCrory, Ridvan, Goldson, Lammers, Sterling, Ruth, Davies, King and McCausland. Probably confirmation that for Goldson and McCausland it's an element of rotation more than anything else. With no Scott Wright, I think it makes sense to give McCausland a bit of a break. I know probably not from a fitness perspective he doesn't need that, but the manager has made a couple of comments where he said, look, he's still only made 3, 4, 5 starts for Rangers. You probably want to protect him a little bit during a busy festive fixture period. want to talk about that kind of three behind the striker. Or we'll touch on the striker first, maybe. You speak about Danilo there. He's not scored in, I think it's a month yesterday, the Sparta Prague game. Sima had went, I think it was 8 or 9 starts without a goal as well. So these spells do happen for forwards. But I agree with you, Danilo. I don't think it's a coincidence that Rangers' best football this season, and it's not been a lot to choose from, but their better performances have normally come when he's up top, because he creates space, he moves defences, he can take the ball. Although he's not a hold-up player, he can take the ball with his back to goal, bring others into play faster off the ball than Cyril Dessers. So although you maybe look at it, Stevie, and you think, okay, he hasn't scored an abundance of goals, Sima's the one in form in that regard, so you're maybe not going to miss too much from him in terms of the actual numbers of goals he's going to score. I think the big challenge for Clement and whoever plays in that position is, can they give the all-round performance he was given? Because certainly, to my eyes, from the games I've been watching, I think his energy on and off the ball that you touch upon, that's going to be the thing that you really have to replace at the top end of the pitch over the next number of months, until another striker probably arrives in January.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that, not to repeat myself, and I don't want to do that, I think the press and his pace and the way he triggers the team is the most thing we'll miss around Danilo's absence. As I said, I think we'll have to change how we play with Dessers being up there, because if you try and play him in the same way, and if you want him to chase and harry, I don't think he can do that. He's not mobile enough, Joshua. He's not got the same kind of style that Danilo has, where Danilo's quite slight and quite quick in terms of chasing the ball and closing things down and stuff. In fact, we've seen him block one of the goalkeepers' kicks in the first, I think, 5 minutes at Tynecastle the other night.
And
so
his goal against Sparta's obviously
from that as well. Yeah. So I'm not sure that the Dessers can play like that. So I would bring him in and look to get Sima Matondo and Cantwell as close to him as possible. But I agree with you. I think that's the biggest miss for Danilo. I think, finishing wise, I mean, nobody's finishing really these days. Even Sima, who has got goals, still missed a couple of glaring opportunities during the week. So, one day, people say to me as well, and I think this is interesting, they say that one day we'll run out of luck and those chances will come back to haunt us. And I agree with that. One day it might click and we spank somebody as well. So it can go either way for me today. I expect Rangers to go and imprint theirself on this game, and I think that's really important. Before Aberdeen and before Limassol, we were doing a really good job of imprinting our game and how we want to play, our style, go and dominate teams and put that on. We've done it at Dundee, we've done it at Hearts and at Hampden. Go and put our game on. I'd like to see us do that today.
Abdallah Sima asked the manager yesterday about the possibility of him playing as a number 9, and he said he's actually not had time in training to field him there because of the lack of depth on either wing. Now, I put a thread out about this before the news about Danilo's injury, but I don't think that Sima's recent form shows you need to put him in the number 9 position. I think it can be an option. I think if you look at the type of goals he's scored, he's often benefiting from even his goal, the first goal here last Sunday, when it's Dessers who's the one who makes a channel run and it allows Sima to arrive into that position. If you look at his goal in midweek, it's Danilo who drops off and takes the middle central defender away and allows Sima to make the diagonal run from the left-hand side. So what's your thoughts on that overall? Because that point of view is not to say that Sima can't play as a number 9, but in a game like this where there's going to be limited space, I think you increase his opportunities of being able to run behind, of being able to move on to the ball instead of playing with his back to goal if he starts on the left-hand side and kind of becomes that second number 9. 3 goals in the last 2 games. What do you make of where he'll play over the next month or so? And whether you think he should be playing on the left or he should be moved into a kind of more central position?
I wouldn't move him.
Yeah.
I think we've got something that works, so I would be tending to keep him there. I know why people would say to move him, and I bet you if we watch it today and Cyril isn't impressing, the first thing people will say is go and move Sima up front. So I understand it completely, but why move? I mean, we've been waiting for a left winger that contributes and get numbers like he has for a long time, so we found one, why move him? So I wouldn't do it. I would be more inclined to play Matondo through the middle and keep Sima where he is and see if he can go and cause some havoc up there and press and harry the way that he does. So I wouldn't swap him out of there. And interestingly, I read a stat yesterday, Joshua, and I've not researched it because you're the stat man, so I figured you might have known. But Sima at left wing has got 1 and 2. Sima up front has got 1 and 4 over his career. So
He's not played through the middle much. If you look at his Sparta Prague days, he's largely playing as a wide forward. He played from the right there more frequently, but it allows him to move on, make second striker runs. I think Michael Beale, one of the things he said about Sima is he's not going to be the main striker; he'll be the second striker. So I think he's someone. You're right. You don't. Rangers have not got a player who scores at the moment enough goals at number 9 to have two players who only create out wide. They need goals from other areas of the pitch. And I think the other thing, Stevie, is yes, although he's technically playing as a winger, but I think it's a classic example of rather than looking at his position, think what his role is. His role is not the same as what McCausland's been. I put up again in that thread. You can look at his touch map compared to McCausland from the other night. McCausland is receiving the ball deeper, and the goal's actually a perfect example. If you look, Rangers build up the right. McCausland's in his own half, playing the ball to Tavernier, which enables Sima to play in the last line and run beyond. So I think we're probably in agreement about that. If it's not broken,
don't mess about with it. That's the way I am.
But it is an option. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think every single one of us, if we're honest, if we're sitting here and this isn't working with Cyril up front, every single one of us will probably go change it and put him up front. I think that's natural. But while we get something working, I wouldn't be going to mess about with it. That's my simple thought process on it. And he has actually looked dangerous. He can normally finish, and I wouldn't be for having an inside forward that is that many contributions. I wouldn't mess about with it.
Yeah, 12 goals by early December is certainly a record from out wide that you'd have taken at the start of the season. The other wing, Rabbi Matondo, if he does play in the right, I tend to sometimes think it's a little bit less natural for him playing on that side. We saw him at the start of the season. He was really out of the picture, and then he came in, scored that goal against PSV, but also had a good few contributions off the bench where he was playing in a more comfortable area on the left-hand side. That I think people have now seen a little bit about what he can do. The next challenge for him is to try and translate that into starting matches. What do you think about him coming in today? And if he's playing on the right, what's the kind of main challenges for him and replacing someone in Ross McCausland who's had a really good 3 games since coming off the bench against Aris just before half time?
Ultimately, he's got to get numbers. Yeah. That's the challenge to him. Is no matter where he's playing, is if he wants to play in this team and he wants to start, which he should be aiming for. Rabbi Matondo had an excellent start to the season. Again, the bar was very low. But if he wants to be in this team, he's got to contribute. He's got to get numbers. He's got to be able to. And although it's unnatural for him maybe out there, he's got to have with him. He's got Cantwell in the middle. He can play off of them. He's got to get close to Dessers. I think that's key. Genuinely, I think that's key today. If we isolate him up, it's not going to work. If we get people close to him, playing off him, playing those passes into him, I think it does work. So that's what we have to do. So I'm looking forward to Rabbi being in there. I think he can do a good job. And he can cut in, and he has got pace. So
he can hit. I always think he looks less natural. I think if you look at someone like Ross McCausland, he actually often is, even though he's right-footed, he's more comfortable moving inside quite often, I think. Whereas Matondo on the right-hand side, I think it's natural for him to try and go beyond and cut back.
I think McCausland has got more of a skill set than Rabbi has with regards to trickery. Rabbi is a very pace, maybe touch and pass direct, players and more direct, and McCausland's a wee bit more tricky. McCausland actually reminds me a lot of a young Chris Burke. The way that Chris Burke came into the team, he's very tricky, very intricate, whereas I think Matondo is more like an Andre Kanchelskis type of winger where you take a touch and then a touch past the player and go and chase it and run with pace. So they're different type of players, but for Rabbi, I mean, let's be honest, and absolutely respectful to Dundee, but we're at home today. We should be going and inserting ourselves into this game, looking to get numbers, looking to take our chances, and looking to put this to bed as quickly as possible. No, and I'm not sitting here being disrespectful, and I don't want it, but it's a home game. It's a home game, so let's go and make it about us, get our game right on it today, and go and do the job. I mean, it's not like we've got bad players. Sima, Cantwell, Matondo, go and get some goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And good to see Todd Cantwell continue in that number 10 position because I think he needs consistency in there. Just finally, Stevie, John, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say something as well. There's a few comments and stuff. We're reading them as they come in about Matondo not being good enough, about Dessers not being good enough and things like that. Nobody's sitting here pretending they are, folks. Nobody's sitting here saying they would be our first choices. Nobody's sitting here saying that we shouldn't go and, maybe try and improve these positions, but it's what we've got. It's what we're faced in front of us. So we're very, everybody's injured and we've not got much there. So it is what it is, and we've got to try and talk positively about what's in front of us. Otherwise, you'd be coming on and we'd just be saying, "This is a bit grim, isn't it?" But let's go and see what we can do. It's a home game. Let's go and really put ourselves on there. It's a chance for all these guys, Joshua. Let's go and see if they can do it.
Yeah, we shall see. A big week ahead for Rangers with 3 games.
3 wins, easy
today
peasy.
Against Dundee, away against Real Betis, and then the small matter of a League Cup final a week tomorrow. Myself and Steve will be live after the game. Keep up to date with the game through our social channels. We'll have all your press conference coverage, etc. after the game as well. Until then, enjoy it wherever you're watching.